Hey guys, what is up? And welcome back to the Two Nerds Podcast. I'm Nixxiom, one of your hosts, and this is...
Oh, it's me, Krendor.
It's Friend, everybody. And we're back.
We're back.
We're back. Now, before we get into things, you know what time it is. We got to talk about our sponsor.
Oh, of course. And who is our sponsor?
Well, guys, this is going to be a new one. It's going to be very unexpected. But our sponsor for this episode is the Nixxiom Corner Store on Krensloth.com.
I did not expect that.
I did not expect that either. You're also never going to believe it. Both are linked down in the description below. Krensloth.com, the Nixxiom Corner Store. We can buy things to help support the channel because YouTube won't monetize this channel. Because apparently, according to YouTube, we can't monetize Two Nerds Podcast because apparently we're re-uploading other people's content. I even sent them a tweet. I was like, it is a podcast. They're like, nah, dude. Clearly you're stealing something. No!
You're clearly uploading podcasts from others' channels.
Exactly. No!
Like, what?
Yeah.
The only thing I could see is, like, if they're saying we're uploading podcasts from, like, the Krendor and Nixxiom channels, in which case you would think we'd be like, no, it's okay, those are our channels. And they'd be like, okay, but it doesn't even give you any, like, details.
I honestly have no idea. Like, I don't know. It's annoying.
It's dumb.
Well, I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. But the point is, if you buy a Krensloth pair of pants or you buy, like, a Nixxiom shirt, new shirts on the store, by the way, finally. Been talking about it forever. They're there. Like, new shit. Yeah, dude. Like, it's all there. Like, if you buy it, you know, the little commissions, it helps support the podcast. All right, that's it.
I also have new shirts.
Do you?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're do eat shirts. Like the do it. Because I have my Sith emote, so I figured I'd make an emote shirt just because a lot of people like that one. So bada bing, bada boom.
Nice. All right, so new stuff there, new stuff on mine. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're not here to talk about merch. We're here to talk about the future.
Yes.
Yeah, dude. Because me and Krendor have been talking about some things behind the scenes here at Two Nerds Podcast HQ about what we want to do with the podcast going forward.
Yes.
How we want to expand it.
Yes.
And you want me to explain?
I'd say you're better at explaining things than me. So yeah.
Okay, sure. So the past several like episodes of Two Nerds Podcast, me and Krendor have sort of stepped away from the kind of nerdy side of things, like the nerd side of culture and whatnot. And we've been talking a lot about, I don't really know the right word for it, but a lot of, I guess, self-help topics. We've talked a lot about, man, what haven't we talked about? We've been talking about, you know, books that we've read that have really helped us in our lives. We've talked a lot about getting into like the mindset of like a YouTuber or like a Twitch streamer if you want to potentially do that as a job one day. We've talked about like getting out of the 9-to-5 job or like the 9-to-5, you know, usual normal job and maybe working for yourself one day and like how you can do that. We've talked a lot about we've talked about health and fitness. We've talked a lot about growth, like just growing, like in, you know, like IRL, instead of like growing in like games and stuff. Yeah. And this is something that like people have really taken well to. Like I've gotten private messages about it. I'm not going to say from who, but some people have messaged me privately and said, you know, hey, like, we really appreciate this advice that you're giving, especially since me and Krendor have done this for so long. You know, being self-employed, being YouTubers, like, you know, dealing with the negativity on the internet, the positive side of the internet, whatever. And I don't know, people have taken really well to it. And it's honestly a topic that me and Krendor are very passionate about. Because we like to help people and we like to show people that, you know, you are talented. You do have skills. You're worth a lot more than you think you are. And maybe you could be your own boss, just like we are. Maybe you could make that YouTube channel that you've always wanted to make and, entertain millions around the world. Or maybe you could start that, I don't know, that Etsy store and sell those paintings that you work so hard on. Like, you could do that. And maybe our podcast could be the stepping stone to give you the motivation and the discipline and maybe some of the advices that we've learned to help you make that dream a reality. And so all that said, we're probably going to change the Two Nerds podcast and make this the theme going forward. And so we're going to rename it to something else. I don't know what we're going to call it. We're taking suggestions down in the comment section. We'll think of something. But we kind of want this to be the theme. What do you think? What do you think, Krendor? Thoughts?
I mean, I think it's great. I've always enjoyed, like, what we're just talking about, like, just more of the self-help, kind of becoming a better person, like positivity.
Yeah, dude.
Kind of like just growing, not even just as a YouTube or a Twitch or whatever channel, but just yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I'm somebody, I think I've said it before, but like, I always love reading self-help books. I read self-help things, especially more in like my early 20s, more than my late 20s, because I've kind of grown into myself. But I still enjoy, all that type of stuff, like reading up on whatever it might be, just to stay fresh. But I always think in a world, especially on the internet, of kind of constant negativity and kind of constant drama and constant like harassment, all these things, it's like we just need some like positive stuff and just uplifting things and like things that take your mind off the world and just kind of, help you refocus and like feel good about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think the internet over the past several days have just been a light. It's just been on fire with just drama, just pointing fingers, name calling, like whatever, just YouTubers attacking each other, yada yada. And it's just, I don't know, none of it matters. It's just a big waste of time. Like, who cares? And like, I mean, sorry, like to anybody that like is in the comment section, like, who cares? Like, dude, like, who cares what so and so said? Like, I want to talk about like you said, like I want to talk about like the books that we're reading. I want to talk about like that guy that's like probably listening to this right now, working at like Food Lion or something. It's a grocery store over here for those of you over in Europe. But the guy working at Food Lion, maybe he fucking hates it, and he's like, man, like I want to write, like I want to be an author one day, like, but I just don't think I can do it. It's like, nah, dude, like let's do it. Like you write your book, we'll make our YouTube channels and do our other things, and let's do it all together, yo.
And the big thing I think is it's all about trying and taking the steps to try something, and maybe it doesn't work out, right? Like, I'm sure there's plenty of people where maybe they wanted to become a professional athlete and they tried and they failed, and they're like, well, you know what? I at least tried, instead of just sitting on the sidelines being like, what if I would have did that? They're like, no, you know what? I did it. It didn't work out. I move on. And there's people like that. Maybe you try to do YouTube and it doesn't work out. And you're like, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. But then you go on, you're like, I'm going to try writing, or maybe you're going to try painting or something like that. And maybe that does work out. And you can use the things you learned from everything else you learned to apply it to your new craft or hobby or whatever you're doing.
Yeah. That's actually what I was just about to say. I mean, if you're doing YouTube, most likely there's a lot of skills behind YouTube. It's not just, as some people say, you just play a video game and just like magically fairies appear and money just suddenly magically appears in your bank account.
Finally, the money fairy has brought me more monetary gain.
There are people out there that think that. Like, you just sit and you play a video game and then just money magically appears. Like, that's how it works. And it's like, well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. But all right. No, like most likely, if you're doing YouTube, like you're really passionate about it. Like, you're taking the time to learn some graphic design to like make some good thumbnails. You're studying SEO. Like, what is SEO? Well, what is it, chat? Like, I don't know. Like you're figuring out that, and you're learning how to use it in order to get like your videos seen more, which can help you like getting your website seen more, like your book seen more, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. You're learning about how to engage an audience. You're learning about a ton of stuff. You're learning how to market, how to use social media. There's a lot that goes into it. And you can use that. Like, let's say you do finish that book, the Tales of the Guy, part 1. And you finish it and you're like, okay, well, how am I going to market this? Well, you use all that stuff that you learned from your YouTube experience with your new thing that you're doing. And that's what we mean. Like, everybody's growing, man. Like, we're all growing. I love it.
Yeah, and it's sometimes it can be a wild journey too. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I do this, and now I become this. It's like there's gonna be bumps in the road. There's roller coasters. There's, like I've gone so like up and down throughout my YouTube and my Twitch and everything that like it's impossible to just keep track of it all in terms of like, oh, this is the formula to succeed. Like sometimes it's just like a new game comes out. Sometimes it just a random video blows up for no reason. Sometimes like you collaborate with someone and then that helps you out and then you help somebody. Like there's so many different things that contribute to the growth of whatever you're doing. But it's, and I think expanding on that and kind of focusing our discussions on that is going to be pretty fun.
I'd also like to, like in future episodes, as well as just talking about, topics like how to grow a YouTube channel, like, what goes into it, like what should you do, or how to grow a Twitch stream. I would also like to talk about dealing with, or like, the mentality side of things. Like, how do you deal with negativity? How do you take criticism and feedback? It's a skill, and it's a skill that not a lot of people have, but how do you do it? And how can you be better at it? And I'd also really like to tell stories. I would love to make a podcast, for example, called Comfort Zones, where I ask Krendor, for example, tell me a story about a time that you stepped out of your comfort zone and what happened. I think that would be interesting, because we all have those experiences of, looking at a situation and being like, this scares me. This intimidates me. Like, this makes me anxious and uncomfortable. But that probably means that what you're looking at is a good thing, and you should probably do it. So I can think of like a million stories, like just off the top of my head, where like I've been in those situations. So yeah, I mean, like there's honestly a lot. I mean, I'd love to give people shout outs on the podcast, people that are like growing, people like, I would love it if like one day like somebody like said like, hey, Two Nerds podcast or whatever we'll call ourselves going forward, again, taking suggestions down in the comment section below. If you got a cool idea, throw it at us. But I'd love it if someone said like, man, like I really appreciated like this piece of advice, and I really want to be an artist, and so I drew this picture, and I really want to see like, what do you guys think about it? And like, we'll literally put it right between us, like on the actual video thing, and be like, dude, like look at this painting, like look at this, and then we can like kind of go from there and like kind of build a whole episode off of that. Give the people like some promotion, like give people shout outs, like tell their stories as well as ours. And yeah, man, just we're all growing together. Like that's kind of the theme that I keep going to in the back of my head.
Yeah, or even just like taking questions from people in the comments and kind of like reading through like various questions that might relate to a topic we have. Be like, hey, this might be our topic next week. Ask questions about it or something related to your own life, and we can answer those questions.
Someone actually asked a question, I believe, from the last episode. I'd have to go back and look at the comments. I might not quote this directly, but it was something to the effect of, how do you tell the difference between being like burnt out on something and what was it? And being like I think it was, how do you tell the difference between being burnt out on something and like just not having any passion for it anymore? I'll actually take a look at what it is. But yeah, like answering questions like that. Someone also asked a question. This is a pretty deep question, and I mean, we can talk about it. Someone said on the burnout video, how do you deal with like how do you guys deal with like depression, like brought on by like your jobs? Because every job has cons, every life has cons. You know, no life is worth living without struggle, and the struggles can sometimes weigh us down, and the struggles can sometimes make us forget the good. And so how do you deal with that? Like those really down moments. That's something else that we could talk about. Just like, hey, this is what I do. This is what Krendor does. You know, what do you guys do?
Yeah.
So
just like real topics. And like, I mean, you know, we made things like what it's like being a YouTuber or like whatever. But I think like the episode about burnout, I think that's a good example of what we kind of want to do, is like getting more into the actual, you know, details and like the, you know, the depths of like YouTube and Twitch, and just doing self-employment or like, you know, managing your money or like any of these types of things.
Yeah.
Or dealing with the emotional baggage that comes with everything, because it can definitely be it'd be difficult to have so many people kind of criticizing you constantly from like especially on things that you've created or, you know, put yourself out there. You know, you're essentially going on stage and having people watch you. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's not that much different.
Or if you're somebody that like you sell products online, I could imagine that your only interaction with your consumers are just negative ones. Like, oh, the thing arrived. It was broken. Your service is terrible. Oh, I hate your website. Oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate that. I mean, how often are you going to get a dude that's going to take time to be like, hey, your package arrived and everything was perfect and I loved your website and the checkout process was easy. Thank you so much. Like, I really love this necklace I bought. Like, yeah, it's probably very few and far between, if at all. Yeah. You know, so
no, it's always going to be the extremely upset people that are like, I'll leave a review, or the people that maybe they really, really liked it. But most people that get it and they're like, it's pretty good, they're not going to care.
I literally got a package in the mail today. I don't care. I'm not going to message the guy that sold it to me and be like, thanks.
That happened a lot in my Hearthstone things. Like, I'd get so many views on them, and I'd read the comments, and people like, this sucks. Like, this is the worst. Yeah. And then I'd be like, oh, I guess people don't like it. And then I realized, like, I mean, it's getting a lot of likes, getting a lot of views. So, like, people must be watching it and liking it. So, and you realize that it's just the vocal minority being like, make the plays that are better.
Yeah. Well, there's a fun fact when it comes to human psychology. I mean, they've quite literally done these experiments. If you take a person and you walk them down a line of people and you shake hands with, let's say, like 500 people, you're like, oh, hey, how do you do? How you do? How you do? And there's one person who, like, when you go to shake his hand, he looks at you like, no, I'm not going to shake your hand. And he like kind of insults you, or he says like fuck off or something. And then you keep going, you keep shaking the rest of the hands. You will focus on that one guy who insulted you or who didn't shake your hand. Like, no one else will matter. Just that one insult, that one guy, that one hit to your ego.
Yeah.
How you deal with that?
And it's like, and even if you like reversed it, maybe you had like, you know, 40 people and they all like insulted you and one person was like, hey, good job. Like, that person's going to stand out. But at the same time, you know, you're still probably going to focus on those hateful comments, especially if it's just the one person. Because, you know, if you're going through it, like, everybody's like, hey, great job, blah, blah, blah. You're kind of like, yeah, right. You expected that in a way. Because you're like, I created this and I had fun making it. And I think other people like it. So when everyone's like, hey, we like it, it's almost expected of like, yeah, I knew they'd like it. So that's good. And then the one person's just like, this sucks. And you're just like, it's like throwing a wrench in the cog.
Exactly. There's also like, I mean, there's some other topics I'd like to talk about as well, because I've dealt with this in my life. How do you deal with things like, what if people don't support you in what you're doing? Like, how do you deal with people doubting you? Because I'm pretty sure that not everybody in, I could probably grab any YouTuber, whether it's myself, Krendor, anyone, or any self-employed person. I could grab Elon Musk. I guarantee you I could ask every single one of them this question and say, did everybody, when like you started doing what you're doing, did everybody in your life support you? And I know what the answer is going to be. No. Probably not. Yeah. There was going to be someone that said, do you really want to do that? That's stupid. That's silly. Like, whatever. How do you deal with that? Like these sorts of topics are what I really enjoy talking about, because there's one thing that, like, as I've read more and more books about like self-help and discipline and leadership and, you know, money management, like whatever, blah, blah, psychology. Like, as I've read more and more, I've sort of been like, man, I wish I would have read this, or I wish somebody would have told me this when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
yeah, I definitely agree with that. Cause I mean, I would go to like I said in another podcast, like I'd go to the bookstore and I would just read books about like self-help or like marketing and psychology and like all that stuff. Cause it was just interesting. And it was stuff that you never really learned about in school.
yeah.
Like, and
School.
we could talk about that as well. The education system.
Yeah. I think we, oh man, what was it? I think that a few episodes ago, we briefly got on the subject of the education system.
Yeah,
at least in the West.
Yeah, we did talk about it for a little bit, but I feel like we could definitely
delve.
We could delve deep into that.
Yeah, I mean, I literally released a video on Nixxiom Unleashed just like a week or two ago about reading and like what your teachers never told you about reading. And I talk about how like, oh yeah, you're told in school, like, read this book, but why? Why do I need to read To Kill a Mockingbird? Why do I need to read Beowulf? Why? Like, why do I need to read all of this like dumb stuff? Like, I don't care. And it's like, there's a reason. But if you can't answer the why, it's like, well, there's no passion if there is no why.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I talk about in the in that video. But yeah,
I think that would be a good topic. So I mean, yet again, like all these things adding up, like marketing, like I was saying, marketing and psychology and kind of, you know, YouTube SEO or Twitch marketing or like promoting your content or just, I mean, a lot of marketing is just psychology. So even just like psychology in general.
Oh yeah.
And like understanding people.
I actually just thought about something. If we do change the Two Nerds podcast into like more of a like, let's talk about self-help, let's talk about business, let's talk about growth. Well, it would be sort of weird to upload an episode at the end of each month onto our main channels that revolve around these subjects, because they would definitely not fit on our main channels.
Oh yeah, that's true too.
So maybe we'll still do the whole once a month thing on the main channels. But those will be the nerd stuff.
That's actually a pretty good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
They can just, you know, like
the upright orc challenge. We'll go back to that. Remember that?
Yeah, that can be. I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah, people love that.
That could. Yeah, that could be more like the video game centered ones. But in those episodes, it'd be like, hey, if you want to hear us talk more about like in-depth stuff, and then this will just redirect them over here.
Yep, there you go. That's a good idea.
So I like that.
Okay. Yeah. The upright orc challenge. It's very simple. Just play an upright orc. Just it's a challenge, let me tell you.
I did want to actually answer the one question though, because from the last episode.
Which one?
Where it's from, where is it? Artemech, where they said, do you have any advice on finding your actual passion? So they said, love the podcast. I have a question for advice. I'm not sure how to word it. I'll try my best. How do you tell the difference between burnout and genuine disinterest in something you thought you liked? Take me, for example. I always flip-flop between being a lead singer in my own metal band and being a game designer creator. I'll sit down and learn game design for weeks on end and then just stop. Can't tell if it's burnout or genuine disinterest in being a game designer. Then I start looking into being a lead singer again, and the same thing happens. Rinse, repeat, flip-flop. Do you have any advice for finding your actual passion? Either way, I just want to say that I love the podcast. Keep doing what you're doing.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. So I would say the big thing between finding your actual passion and finding something you're just interested in but don't really have a lot of passion behind it would be your drive to continue doing that thing.
Okay.
Take, for example, I think a good example is writing, right? How many times am I like, I'm going to write,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want to write a book. I want to write a thing. And a lot of times I'll do that. I'll like for a little bit, I'll write and I'll focus on that. And then I stop. And then a while goes by. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I wanted to write again. And I start writing again. And I'm like, uh, and to me, that shows me that I enjoy that, but I don't think I'm passionate about it.
Mm.
And so I think that's okay because just because you're not passionate about something like that doesn't mean you're not interested in it, if that makes sense. Because I think you can be interested in something and almost have it as like a hobby where you're like, you know what, every once in a while I'll work on my book and then I'll write for a bit and be like, all right, I'll come back to that later because you kind of run out of, you run out of juice to kind of keep going with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're passionate about something, you kind of override that disinterest and you power through it with like maybe self-discipline, but just I think your will to do it kind of drives you past the chemicals in your brain that are like, I'm done getting my dopamine from this new thing. And so I think, for example, when I started making videos way back when, in like 2009 or 10, I remember after a while I started hitting that and being like, I don't know if I really want to do a video thing today, but I was like, you know what? I do want to do a thing today. And so I would just keep going. And that general interest of being like, you know what, I really do enjoy this kind of pushed me past uh that desire to like not do that thing, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. I feel because um I don't know, there's like there's this part of your brain that just craves new things.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you don't focus well enough, your brain is just gonna fly all over the place in search of like different dopamine hits,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's different hobbies or different games or scrolling Twitter or doing whatever, especially in our modern age where there's so many distractions around you. So I would say to find out whether or not you're passionate about something, kind of just give it like 30 minutes a day, maybe like 20, 30 minutes, and just sit aside and do that thing and do it for like a month. And after a month, I feel like if you want to keep going with it, you're passionate about it. And if you don't, you probably don't really care that much.
Mm-hmm. I think that I'm actually looking for the comment right here. Let's see, where is it? Oh, whatever. I think the first thing to say is, let's see, let me articulate my thoughts.
All right.
The first thing to say is that I feel like any passion, no matter how strong you feel towards it, can become a burden and can at times become an annoyance or can make you depressed. I think, for example, what's something that everybody enjoys? Everybody enjoys sex. But if you
Mm-hmm.
were forced to just have sex like nonstop, you would get sick of it. So
Mm-hmm.
even if you're passionate about it, even if you love it, even if it like gives you pleasure in the moment, it can get frustrating, it can get annoying, and eventually you're like, oh my God, fuck this, you know? So, and I've experienced that plenty of times. I really enjoy doing YouTube, but sometimes when like the pressure is on and I'm like just, doing it like left and right, like, oh my gosh, like, you're editing like, 10 hours a day, 12, 14 hours, like, oh my gosh, like it gets to the point where you're like, I hate this, like, and you step away. However, Krendor said that something that you can tell you're really passionate about is, like, do you come back to it though? I think,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, I actually would sort of disagree with something that you said. Maybe not disagree, but you said with the writing thing, you were like, I don't think I'm passionate about this. I think I'm just interested in it. I would actually disagree and say, no, I think you very much are passionate about it because you might not get your writing fix from, or your storytelling fix from maybe sitting down and writing a book about like orcs and trolls and elves and whatnot. but you write stories through YouTube. And I'm sure that you tell stories at times on stream. I think that it's not necessarily writing that's maybe your passion, it's just storytelling. And I think that the reason why you keep going back to writing is because that's your passion. And I think that, to be completely fair, if, like, let's say you had a ton of passive income and you didn't have to stream or do YouTube, you probably would sit down and write that book, and you would do it very joyfully throughout like an entire day or over the course of a few months. And you would be like, that was awesome. But I think that maybe right now for yourself and for a lot of us, myself included, there are some things that distract us from the things that we're passionate about and some of the things that we really want to do. However, I will also agree that if you are hyper passionate about something, you will tolerate no excuse. Like, you will get it done. Imagine, for example, like a father providing for like his wife and kid. There is no excuse in his mind. Like, he will provide. Like, that's kind of, just imagine that sort of like traditional dude. You know what I mean? And so, like, if you're hyper passionate about YouTube, for example, like for me, I can use myself here. When I was growing my YouTube channel, I was working a job about, around 30 hours a week. So not full time, but getting there. I was in school full time. I was in college, and I was doing YouTube full time, and I was kind of in a toxic relationship. Maybe not toxic. It's just that the person that I was dating wasn't really mentally healthy. And there was a lot of like self-harming and a lot of me having to sit there and like comfort her and talk to her and be there for her. It was the most stressful time of my entire life. It was like, I still have the calendars because I would have to plan out my days from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep. Like, wake up, go to class, get home, do homework, go to work, 6-7 hours, come home, finish homework, prepare speech for tomorrow, write script, edit for 3 hours, talk to lady friend for like 2 hours, hang out, whatever, go to sleep, repeat. It was the first time in my life where I was experiencing panic attacks and anxiety attacks, which was insane for me. Like, I remember like hyperventilating sometimes, being so stressed out. And I remember talking to one of my teachers, and they said, drop the YouTube stuff. Like, drop all this, like, releasing like multiple videos a week, and, like why even do it? Focus on school right now. Focus on like your job. Focus on your relationship. Don't focus on this YouTube stuff. Like, why would you want to do that? And I was like, because I enjoy it. Because I like reading the comments. Because I like entertaining people. I like making people smile. Making other people happy is more important to me than my own happiness. And that's why I continued doing it. And then eventually I was actually able to leave my job and I was able to do YouTube full time. Was it easy? No. It was very hard. It was very stressful. But sometimes if you're hyper passionate about something, you will be like, I don't care what I have to go through, like what hell my feet have to tread through. Like, I will endure it. When you find that passion, you will know. And my final thought before I'll surrender the mic back to Krendor is something that you are truly passionate about will never feel like a job. I think that, when I say feel like a job, I mean like you dread doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of like those stereotypes that we attach to just the job. Like you wake up, another day, here we go, blah, blah, blah. If you're not passionate about something, or if that's how you're acting towards a subject, in my opinion, it shows you're not passionate about it. And I think that that's not necessarily a bad thing. Interests change over time. And maybe what you can do is you can try to find ways to take what you're doing, whether it's playing in a band or let's take a YouTube channel. Like, I've got this YouTube channel. Maybe I'm not passionate about my, D&D lore anymore, whatever your YouTube channel's about. Maybe you can find a way to innovate to recreate the passion. Like, oh, well, like, why am I passionate about D&D lore? Well, I like fantasy. I like history. I like sharing stories. Well, what other fantasy settings do you enjoy? Well, I really like Lord of the Rings and Elder Scrolls and stuff. Why don't you try making some like Elder Scrolls and Lord of the Rings lore videos then? Okay, I'll try that. And then you do that and you're like, and it refuels that passion. You know, it wasn't D&D. It was, you know, just your love of storytelling. So maybe something like that. So those are my thoughts just off the cuff. You know, I'm sure I could think of more, but what do you think, Krendor?
No, I definitely agree with those. I mean, going back to the initial one you mentioned with my my kind of advice saying that I actually am passionate about writing and kind of storytelling, I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, you're a writer.
And
You always talk to me about writing.
yeah, I think after dwelling on it a little bit, and kind of thinking about what passion is, like passion is actually an emotion, right? Like passion is like I feel strongly about this thing. Like I love this thing or I hate this thing, right? Like that's what passion is. So you're like, I love making videos. And so you either, you know, you have that passion, that drive to be like, I'm going to make these videos because I love doing this so much. And I think having the, like setting aside time, like to do that thing constantly, helps to, I don't know, like continue. What am I trying to say?
Build the passion, grow it.
Yeah, it helps to like keep the passion. Like the thing is, like the passion is gonna eventually die off because it is just an emotion, right? And it's almost like what I mentioned with the burnout in like a relationship, right? Like you have those initial chemicals that you have when you are in a relationship, and then those chemicals eventually fade away because they're like, all right, we've done our job. But that doesn't mean you're done with your relationship now. It just means you appreciate it in a different way. And so to me, if you, for example, in the comment they said being a game designer, creator, and a metal band, and they go back and forth and back and forth. To me, it sounds like they're as passionate about both.
Yeah, I was
and they
like,
just,
what's wrong with both?
yeah, like to me, that's what it sounds like. You're passionate about both, and you do one, and you have that emotion and drive towards one, and then you kind of use all that up, all that like, all that dopamine and the chemicals that you're like, yeah, and then you're like, all right, well, now I'm kind of bored with that, but I still enjoy it. Like you're not bored with it, and then you're like, I hate this now. But then the other one you forget about, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do that again. And I feel like that's fine to go back and forth. But I think even if you set aside time for both of them throughout the month, that would be fine. But I mean, going back and forth, doing both, if that's working, like I think you're just passionate about both. Like passion doesn't mean you're constantly excited to do something, because you're not going to be constantly excited to do something.
I don't know.
Sometimes.
No, go on. Finish your point.
And I was just going to say, sometimes it's easy to. There's ways you can kind of re-spark that passion, like what I said in the burnout video. Like when I watch some of my old videos, I might have at the start of the day, I've been like, man, I don't really care about making machinima videos or WoW stuff. And then I rewatch some of my old videos and like, boom, I'm like, yo, I want to make a WoW video, because watching my old stuff re-sparks that passion inside me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's also ways of kind of finding that passion and kind of re-sparking it and like rekindling it.
I would almost say, like, when it comes to being a musician, and also being a game designer, I mean, I don't know this person, just a random comment. I would ask the person, like, well, do you write music? And it's like, yeah, I write music. And then it's like, and when you game design, are you like, game designing? Are you like creating worlds and stuff? Yeah, I do that. Maybe your passion isn't necessarily music or game design. Maybe your passion is creation. You like making things. Like I would say, what do you think about the idea of like making a video? Like, what do you think about the idea of building a shed? What do you think about the idea of like building an Iron Man suit? Like, if you had the skills and the knowledge to do these things, like, do you think you would enjoy that? And if the answer is, yeah, I think I would, then you're probably a builder. Like for me, I think that I look at, what am I passionate about? I really enjoy like when it comes to like YouTube and like Twitch and all this stuff, Two Nerds podcast, whatever. Like, why is this stuff? Why am I passionate about this stuff? Well, because I really enjoy making people happy. Like, I like making people smile, because like I've been in places in my life where I've struggled, and like I just wanted to be happy. Like, and so I would watch, podcasts, and I'd watch videos, and I'd watch movies, and it would make me happy. And it's like, oh, cool. So now I'm in this like, position of privilege that very much humbles me, where now I'm the guy making the videos and the podcasts and the whatever, and maybe helping like a young person get through like a hard time, just like I went through hard times growing up. And this is something that is reflected all throughout my life. When I was, years ago, like I used to be a missionary to Africa. I've been to the third world. I've fed starving kids. I've helped build schools over there. Today, like I make people smile and laugh on YouTube. I've helped feed homeless people like around North Carolina. Like, it's just been a constant in my life. Like, this is what I like doing. And so what I would do is I would try to break down, like, what are you passionate about? Like, what are you currently doing that you enjoy? And ask yourself, well, why do I enjoy this? And really figure out what is your personality type. Because for me, I enjoy helping people, but I also really enjoy creating things. I, too, am a builder. I like drawing. I like writing. I like making videos and doing puzzles and like building things. Like, if you asked me to build a shed, I don't know how to build a shed, but I know I would enjoy building it. 'Cause I'm a builder personality, building businesses, everything. Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason I always loved IKEA too. Like, you got to build IKEA shit.
Yeah, dude.
And it's like, I always, some people, it's funny because people always be like, isn't it suck? You got to build it. And I'm like, I kind of like building it, Like,
Yeah.
I just enjoyed doing it. It's just fun. Like, I always enjoyed playing with Legos and stuff when I was growing up, or I'd write stories as a kid. So, I mean, and I feel like what you said with it doesn't feel like a job, because you kind of hesitated there and you're like, well, I don't know, because, it can still feel like work.
Yeah.
But I think there's the difference between there's work and then there's a job.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's why I hesitated. Because I didn't want to, because even if you're passionate about game design, like, it can still feel like it's work, like you said. Mm-hmm. But the stereotypes around the job, drinking the coffee before you got to go do it, miserable, hate it, blah, blah, that to me shows you're not passionate about it, And like if I use myself as an example again, like that's how it was with like WoW Machinima for me, for like after like Mukluk stepped away and it was just me making WoW Machinima. I just was sitting there and I was making it not because I wanted to, because I felt like I had to. Mm-hmm. And I hated it. And I was like, this sucks. Like, and I wasn't passionate about it anymore. And I tried to force it for the longest time. And I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. So, yeah. It shouldn't feel like a job. It can feel like work, but not a job. Please continue. I cut you off.
No, that's fine. Because, I mean, it's kind of the same with me. Like, when I would make WoW Machinimas, I always loved doing it. Like, when I first started, even like after a few years of doing it, I was still loving making them. I'd like record audio in I'd go into the garage because I was still living with my parents. I'd go into like my parents' garage in the car to record audio on my laptop.
What?
Like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for like videos, I'd take my laptop, my little like blue snowflake microphone, and be like, "Oh, there I go," just do shit like that. And if you're not passionate about something, you're not going to go through all that effort to do that type of shit. Like, when you're passionate about something, you put in the extra effort to get whatever it is done. Mm-hmm. I think is another good thing, because if I didn't give a shit about making WoW videos, if I was like, man, this isn't going to make money or like whatever, like I didn't care. Like, I was like, I really want to make this story come to life. And I think that's what you said, like storytelling. Like, I wrote a script, and I think what I love is the process too of like how passionate I'm with it. Is I have these ideas in my head, and then you write it down as a script, and you're like, okay, now I see. You kind of get like a structure for it, and then you record the audio for it, and you're like, oh, now I know what it's going to sound like, and then you film over that, and you edit it all together, and when you post it on the internet, it's just I don't know, it's a really cool feeling to put that much work into something and then post it on the internet. and like just have people watch it and be like, wow, that was awesome and everything. And I
Yeah.
think there's some people that might do that, or they wouldn't even care. They'd be like, I don't got any stories to tell, or like, that doesn't really sound fun or anything. And like, that's okay, but that's how I knew I was passionate about YouTube. Was I would do that, and then I would be like, man, that was fun. I want to do that again.
I thought
So,
about something as well in relation to passion, because there's a lot of things that people want to do, but they can't find the passion to do it.
mhm.
A great example of this that, came to my mind is weight loss. I'm sure that there's quite a number of people listening to this, even myself, that wants to lose a little bit of weight. I lost a lot of weight in the past. I put a little bit back on, and it's time to lose that little bit. And people are probably thinking like, or they probably have thought, man, like I want to lose this weight, but going to the gym and counting calories and like all this crap, like I'm not passionate about that. Like that's not me. Like I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. So you sort of like, you just kind of reach that moment of being content. Like, well, I guess I'll just, learn to look in the mirror and just kind of accept what I see when I know that I could lose more, you know?
Mhm.
And what I think that you should do in that case, when it comes to finding the passion, is like for me, when I was losing weight, when I first started, the idea of going to a gym or something absolutely intimidated me. It terrified me.
Mhm.
And so what I did is I asked myself, well, what is something that I am passionate about, that I enjoy doing, that involves physical activity? And the two things that popped up in my mind were, number one, I really love hiking. I love being out in nature. Like, I love just hiking, and it gets hot and you get sweaty and you're climbing up and down like rock walls and rooty, like the rooty trails and whatnot.
Mhm.
And I love that. And so that was one thing. And another thing was, I've always really enjoyed riding bikes. I find it very relaxing just to get on a bike and ride around town and just, whatever. And then eventually what I did is I combined those two together and I started mountain biking, which is incredibly difficult and incredibly taxing on the body. And that's how I lost 80 pounds. I just looked at what I told myself, I have to do this. I talked about this a few podcasts ago. I talked about
Mhm.
your must needs to be reinforced by your wants.
Mhm.
So I must lose X amount of weight, 20 pounds. Okay, well, what do I want to do in order to achieve the must? Well, I would like to ride bikes and I would like to do trail hiking and maybe mountain biking. Okay, cool. So now your wants, the things you want to do, are reinforcing what you must do. What you're like, yeah, I must do this. And then suddenly discipline and passion and whatnot comes easy because you're just doing what you want to do and achieving the goal that you want to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same for me with going to the gym. Like, it's always one of the things where I was like, I guess I'll go to the gym at some time. I got to start working out, and then, once I had all those things happen, like my gallbladder and my toenails removed, like all my body falling apart, I was like, I need to go to the gym. Like, I
Yep.
need to get my body like back in shape. And so, going to the gym after a while, it's like you just hit a point where I'm like, I'm going to the gym today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not even a question. Like, and your body almost drives you. Like, I need to work out.
Mm-hmm.
And even like now, like I've been just taking walks, and like because after a while of not doing anything, I was like, I gotta do something. Just going out and walking and getting sun,
Mm-hmm.
and just getting some sort of physical exercise. Like, I just need some sort of physical exercise now, whether it's even just walking for like 30 minutes. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that alone makes me feel better. So it's yeah, it's like you said, you gotta kind of you pave the way for your future, essentially.
When I decided that I wanted to lose weight, I was talking to another YouTuber. This was a long time ago. His name was Big Matty, and Big Matty, he had just gone through a divorce and he had lost a ton of weight because he used to be like a big chunky boy, and
Mm.
then he lost like 120 pounds or something. I actually don't remember. It might not even been that much, but he lost a lot of weight. And I was talking to him one day because I hadn't spoken to him in like months. And I told him, like, I'd like to lose some weight. Like, how did you do it? Like, how did you lose so much weight? And he gave me one big piece of advice that I've never forgotten. And this advice applies to anything, whether it's weight loss, business, whatever. He said, here's the thing. If you go into wanting to lose weight and you look at the process of losing weight as a chore, you will always fail. If you look at going to the gym as a chore, you're not going to lose weight. If you look at getting on the mountain bike as a chore, you're not going to lose weight. Let's talk about business. If you look at your business as a job, like we said, it's not going to succeed. Like, you actually need to want it. And how do you want it? Like, how do you lose weight then? Well, that goes back to what I talked about before. Think about, well, what's something that you could do that is a little bit of physical activity, but you want to do it. Bike riding for me. Business. I want to do business. I want to be self-employed one day. I want to make money like off of through my own two hands. What is something that you're passionate about then? Well, I really enjoy making like gaming YouTube videos. I think that's fun. Pursue that. Because if you're passionate about it and you don't view it as a chore, you will just naturally do it. You'll put your energy into it. People will see that energy, and maybe, just maybe, you will succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So those are my thoughts. Like I said, this is all off the cuff. I wasn't prepared to answer that question, but like, that's just some quick thoughts, which is good.
Yeah, I thought it'd be good to kind of just answer that question, kind of give I'll give like an example of like the type of show we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think I might have already said this, but you can take breaks from things that you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. I think I might have. You're gonna hear this quote a lot on this podcast. I'm pretty sure I've said it before, and I'm gonna say it again. A long time ago, I was given the advice by my dad. Does this sound familiar? Have I said this on the podcast before?
Maybe.
The big quote from my dad. My dad one day sat me down. He said, "Let me give you some advice." And he was like, "You're getting older." And he was like, "And as a man, there are two things that you got to learn how to do. First thing that you got to learn how to do is you got to learn how to work. All right? That's easy. Learning how to work and bust ass and work 16 hours a day, that's easy. It's like the second part's the hard part. After you learn how to work, you got to learn how to rest." And I've thought about those words my entire life. And every single year as I get older, I learn more and more what that means. The point is, like, be passionate about something. Pour your heart into it. This is just one interpretation, but there's many. Pour your heart into something. Make that YouTube channel. Make that business selling, Krensloth merchandise or Nixxiom corner store merchandise, whatever. Pour your heart into it, but rest. Don't burn yourself out on it. Take a break, and that's okay. And in fact, you should schedule time to rest. If you were to open up some business book, one of the first things they'll talk about is, you need to make time not only for your business, but for your health and for your family and for your friends. Like, you need to schedule in that time to spend time with your kids and your partner and your friends. Otherwise, what's the point of doing all this? What's the point of losing 80 pounds if there's like nobody there to say good job? Like, what's the point of making $1 million if there's nobody that you can like share that money with and share that joy with? Like, hey guys, let's go out on a vacation and like go see Rome or something. Like, what's the point? And so make sure you take the time to rest as well as to work. And there's a lot I could say about that quote. That's it. Those are my thoughts.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
On an episode.
Yeah, we can talk about
how to
relax, how to take a break, how to chill, how to stop.
Yeah.
Just how to stop.
Honestly, it's like you're saying, like, sometimes you need a break to kind of rejuvenate that passion. Like, I was even saying, like, I've actually been wanting to make WoW videos again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's not even like, oh man, I think these are gonna get a lot of views. I think it's just like, no, I just want to make them.
Mm-hmm.
And if I make a couple and I want to keep going, I'll make more. And if I make a couple and I'm like, that was fun, then I'll stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what it is.
I think that you should take a break even if you don't want to take a break.
Yeah.
I think that you should say, I'm going to, like, maybe you're on fire. You're like, man, dude, I'm just kicking ass and chewing bubble gum today. You know, you're doing great. I think you should still be like, okay, hold on. I know I'm doing great, but I got to take a break. I got to stop.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, that's hard. That's very hard. Like, and I like I said, the older I get, the more I learn, like, the deeper meanings of that quote. Because, yeah, there have been plenty of times where I'll get, like, really hyped about something and I'll put all my energy into it and I'll burn out on it. Or I will not take that, or I'll get so obsessed with something. This is another interpretation. I'll get so obsessed with one way of doing things that I won't think about another.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm just going to make this one kind of video, this one kind of video, this one kind of video because it works. But if I had just taken a moment to sit back and smoke a cigar and think about, you know, what is it about these videos that people enjoy so much? Maybe it's the storytelling, for example. Maybe what I could have done is, instead of making the same video over and over and over, I could have made a different kind of video that fulfilled the same want in the audience. Yeah. So that's just an example just made up off the top of my head.
And I think a good example for me is just I always love the World of Warcraft more than I love playing the game, right?
Yeah.
I like going out and exploring the world more than being like, I'm the best PvP around.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of my series kind of show that, like Pointless Top 10. I'm talking about the grass. I'm talking about how the sky looks. I'm talking about weird shit you find in buildings. Or like when I made What Are NPCs Thinking? I love just going out and being like, here's some weird NPC. What would I think he'd be saying or like thinking about right now? And so, you know, when I try to think of new series I want to do, it's like I try to think based around that. Like, all right, well, I enjoy world exploration. What's something I could do that's like fun with that?
Yeah.
And so it's you know, it's a good way to like even just start your thought processes. Like, all right, let's start from here and kind of work our way out. Because at the base, I'm like, all right, the base of this is still I enjoy exploring the World of Warcraft, and so that's where I'm gonna, you know, set my ground at.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, honestly, this is a pretty big topic, and we could keep talking about it. Not just with finding passion and, like, you know, I mean, I would love to talk more about, like, you know, reading books and surrounding yourself with the right kind of people, the right kind of subject matter, the right kind of everything to get you in the right mindset to build passion. But I think we're gonna have to do that another time because we're at our hour mark pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us again what you think. Well, we should rename the channel. What you think all this, and any questions you might have as well.
Yeah, any questions? We'll talk about it in future episodes. Yeah, dude. Well, all right. Well, as always, I'd like to thank the sponsor, Krensloth.com, the Nixxiom Corner Store, linked down below in the description. And I'd like to thank Krendor for hanging out with me this evening. And I'd like to thank you guys for listening and watching and giving your feedback and suggestions for the future channel name down in the comment section.
And hitting the bell.
That's right. And hitting that bell and that big old sub button. That's right.
Yes, sirree. Yes, sirree.
Yes, sirree, Bob diddly diddly dee.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever, whenever you're listening to this. And I guess we will see you guys with the next episode next week. Yeah, dude. Krendor, any final thoughts, or you just want to give the final word?
I'll give the word.
All right. See you all later. Give the word.
See you.